Welcome to Junkyard Haunts, where we turn trash into haunts. Today we're going to be making something crazy different than normal. And we're going to need some stain to stain our wood. To make the stain, it's just apple vinegar mixed with steel wool. You'll want to shred up that steel wool and mix it in there, and you got to let it set for actually like 2 weeks or so for it to really work. So that's why I made that first thing, and then we move on to our wood. We're actually going to be making a mask that you would hang on our wall, so we have to build a frame, and I thought, why not just use some wood. Normally I try to build all this stuff with not even fancy tools or anything. I don't actually own this. I had to go to my dad's house and use all of his stuff. But the wood I use is actually left over from when my neighbor built a fence, so I just sanded it down and stripped it down to the sizes I needed using a table saw. And then I just nail it together. My dad has a nail gun, so I just use that instead of regular nails, but regular nails would work great. To give it a little more aged and old looking feeling, I'm going to cut this wood at an angle instead of straight on for the most part. And then I just need to age this thing by putting a whole bunch of chips and splinters and broken parts into this. So to do that, I'm using a chisel and a hammer just to cut out a whole bunch of nicks randomly throughout. Let me know what you guys think of me building some actual wood products here and there. I can definitely do some more stuff like that if that interests you at all. And now we're going to make the mask to actually put into our frame we built. Since I wanted a creepy face to be split open and spread apart in between this frame, I'm taking a mask that's kind of thick, and there's no way I can break that apart, so I'm actually going to use that as my template to make a mask that is much more easily to mold. By putting saran wrap over the mask to keep that mask safe and protected, so I can keep using it A, for other projects, or B, just how it's meant to be used. And then I'm just putting paper mache straight onto that plastic. I'll put up a link to if you guys need to learn more about paper mache. But I put on a whole bunch of layers because the only thing that's going to support this is just the paper mache itself. There's nothing underneath of that. The plastic will rip off when it's done, and it's just paper mache. So now we use that stain that we made with the apple cider and steel wool and just wipe it on our wood, and it will just age the wood a bit. When you first put it on, it just looks wet, but it does age it after it finally dries. Here you actually see it's drying, but I wanted the cracks and nooks that I used to have a little bit more darkening effect, so I put another layer inside of that as well. And now we need to make our mask look more like an actual face. To do that, I actually just break it. I push it flat to make it look more stretched out, because that's the look I was going for, and it actually breaks the paper mache a little bit, so I had to build up the paper mache back, but more in its flat state. And I'm making the mask's mouth wide open by cutting it open and just adding more paper mache. This is a paper mache product, like always. I do a lot of that mainly because it is very cheap and inexpensive, and it turns out good and pretty strong, really, so it can last long. With paper mache, when you cut it open, it leaves it frayed and looks like it will tear apart easier. So that's why after I cut it open, I throw more paper mache around those cuts as well to smooth that out and to make sure that it doesn't split open or peel apart. Now I didn't actually show this, but I did just put a base coat of paint underneath of it, just a flesh colored paint. We are going to go ahead and cover almost all of it, so it probably wasn't super necessary to do that, but I just like to be careful. I painted the back a little bit too, but again, you don't even see the back, so probably not worth it. And then I'm taking a hole punch and just punching a whole bunch of holes in a little area so that the holes looked more like they're ripped instead of a perfect hole punch. And just taking some rope and weaving it through and tying it to the frame. Now I wanted this rope to not pull apart, so after I cut off the ends, I'm actually using some hot glue gun and spreading it around those frayed parts just so it won't unravel. Now I'm actually trying something new. I'm using some fake skin to put over this mask so it actually looks more like a real face. So I found this recipe where you just put some regular glue and add some laundry detergent, just a little bit, until it's a consistency that you feel like is a little bit runny and sticky. I added some more flesh colored paint into it as well, but that's, you know, we can paint it after it's done. I just figured maybe that would save a step. And then you add cornstarch into it until it gets a little bit of a thicker consistency. It should almost be like a little bit stickier putty. And then we just spread that around its face. But I go ahead and build up and leave globs and thicker spots here and thinner spots here. I figured that would help actually look more aged and even torn apart and ripped. I've seen this recipe used mainly because it will also stick to real skin, so if you wanted to use this recipe to give yourself scars and wounds on your actual body, that would work too. And after that's done, I went ahead and painted the parts of that original paper mache mask that are still showing through, which I have quite a bit. As you can see, I'm actually painting that kind of like a blood color to add more detail and depth to this. The blood is just some red mixed poorly with black so that you get a few different tones within one quick swipe. And then this mask just looked a little too clean and still, so I decided to actually do a little bit of a heavier dry brush by mixing in some darker flesh tones, mix a little bit of brown, and just kind of brushing over lightly around the rest of the flesh colored skin. Look at that art of balancing. We're gonna turn this into a balancing show. No, there's nothing behind that. Thanks for watching that video. Don't forget to hit subscribe and share with your friends. Also, don't forget to make it yourself. At the end of these, I want to go over what I could have done better. I think adding just a little bit more detail to this would have made that better, such as doing something like hair for the eyebrows. Since this was made out of glue, the fake skin, I could have easily just added a little bit of hair around the eyebrow area, and it would have just stayed in, and I wouldn't have had to add anything else to keep that hair on. Leave a comment below, tell me what you guys want me to make in the future. See, like I was saying, nothing's balancing it up.